So Simon, as a journalist, how do you approach big data in a different way to the way, let's say, a data analyst would?
I suppose we're always looking for stories, we're always looking for ways to represent that data and explain it to people, make it accessible for them. Whereas an analyst, I guess, is concerned with the big picture of of the work they would do on that, but very much for us it's using that data to tell a story, and the output of that might be a visualization or a graphic or that traditional data stuff, but it might just be words on a page, so it really varies with what we're trying to get out of it, but the bottom line is we're trying to make that data easy for people to understand.
Okay. And does big data allow you to find important stories that maybe you couldn't find before, or to tell stories more effectively?
I think there's a combination of the both. So when you've got something huge, 400,000 items on WikiLeaks, I suppose that's not that big in terms of these terms, but for our readers, it's about kind of picking out the essential stories from that. And that suddenly, with, the war in Iraq, you've got this amazing kind of representation of the war in real time. Or, for instance, with government spending data, where there's millions of items there for us. Having access to that information can really kind of tell stories in a way that we wouldn't have been able to before.
Okay. And what are the new skills that a journalist needs to be able to add big data to his toolbox?
I think it's just, when I started in journalism a long time ago, it was all about, using the internet. And now nobody can imagine not using the internet.
Yeah.
I think it'll be the same with spreadsheets and, databases in a few years' time. It'll just be so much a part of what we do. Because so many stories now are coming out of the big data that's behind the news that's being published every day by government departments. And it's our job to analyse that data and break it down for people. And if we don't do that, we're not doing our job properly.
So you think then it will be just a standard skill that every journalist needs, or do you think there will be specialist data journalists as well?
I suspect that it won't be called data journalism.
Okay,
I think
it'll be just journalism.
I think it'll just be journalism, exactly. I think that's the future for us.
And do you see gathering data, in addition to disseminating data, as part of the journalist's job in the future?
Yeah, I think data journalism as it is, can be anything really. It can be these enormous kind of data analysis projects. Sometimes it can just be finding the data. That search for information is a very basic journalistic skill, the sort of stuff we all learned at journalism college. It's about finding information. It just happens that information is maths and numbers, and traditionally journalists, being afraid of maths, would avoid those things. But actually our job can just be revealing that data and just saying, these are the key numbers, what do you think?
So is this journalists are afraid of maths thing still a problem, or are the tools so easy to use now?
I think it's getting less so, because journalists are seeing that the only way to get stories is to be able to use these tools and use these skills.
Okay. So final question, can you tell me a bit about a couple of your favourite data-driven stories that you've covered recently?
Well, I suppose very recently, we've been doing a lot of work on the riots in the UK. Obviously, in August, we had 4 days of kind of major riots across England. But behind that, there is a hell of a lot of data that we've been working on. Partly it's been on where things happened and what happened where. But also, we've got this amazing access now to all these court records, which has never happened before in the UK. We demanded access to this public information, which was kept by all the courts that the rioters were going through, and we've got it released. So suddenly we've got 1,000 rioters on our database, and we can look at where people came from, what kind of areas people came from, and we're going to go out and interview people as well to bring kind of qualitative and quantitative stuff together to produce what we hope will be a really interesting project.
So then did you get data out in the public domain that wouldn't have been in the public domain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise?
We've published the information that was traditionally kept entirely secret, and it's supposed to be public information.
Okay. And was there a difference between the conviction rates and the other stuff like that?
We haven't had all that yet. All we've got at the moment is people in court first, because what's happening, what we're already noticing is that for the sort of offences that before you would have been sent home on bail, now nobody's getting bailed. They're all getting sent back to jail. It's predominantly young men, hardly any women involved. It's just a really interesting snapshot of society as much as anything else.
Okay. All right, Simon, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.